Hello, so we're at part 4 of our composition series, and when we last left off, we decided on certain images that would go well with the existing composition, and I put these back together, and we made some circle cuts and that kind of thing. I'm still deciding where to put this one. I took it, I think we had it here last time, and I took it back out, and I kind of like it up here. And I kind of like it squeezed right in here because I'm thinking that I like this elongated look here, especially because her hand is up there. But we still have time to think about it because nothing is glued down. And at this point, what I want to do is we want to work more on our background. We want to make it a little bit more vibrant because we started out with a neutral background. I want to start lifting some of the put some color back into it, make it a little bit more interesting. So again, I'm going to take this back off and we're going to start working on the background. Now at this point, I know pretty much how my pieces are going to go on because I feel like there's only one way these can fit. But if you want to, you could take a photograph with your phone so that you can remember where your pieces would go back on. Okay. But you don't have to do that, or you can kind of make a mental imagery with your head. Okay, now here's what I want to do. I want to go back and you see how we have some really nice writing on here, and you know, I want to go back and put some more writing in. So I pulled out some pieces of paper that I had in my stash. These are pages that I'd already cut circles out of, and they're perfect for adding back into backgrounds because when you lay them onto a background like this, they just kind of melt right into the background and they fit in really well. They have these circles, they have lines, and in this case, I could put it like right here and it would go really well. I could also do this one, same thing. This is a piece that I cut circles out of. I could put it down here or here. I probably wouldn't use this whole thing. I would probably cut it up if I use this, you know, maybe here. And it doesn't even really matter where you cut it up because the wonkier the piece, the eye likes to look at things that are square. So if you kind of cut it like this, the eye isn't going to really pick it up as much. And so it's going to seem like it's a more natural fit. So like I could put that one there. I also pulled out of my stash this piece I cut out from an old National Geographic map. Clearly, I just wanted the circles, but if I wanted to add some blue in, I could do something like this. Now, in this case, I do think it would conflict with, say, this piece, because I already have the maps here. I think it would conflict with that. So I don't think I'm going to use it, but this side is a little bit more neutral. I could use something from that, but I don't think I'm going to do it. But in the future, do look at these National Geographic maps because they do have, once you punch the circles out, it gives you a nice, more neutral look to your background. So just consider that. The other thing that I like, this is tissue paper. It comes pre-printed. I bought this off the internet. There's a company, I think, called Tissue Stock, and they sell a bunch of pre-printed tissues. This one is their French script. They also have different alphabet ones. They have ones that have keys on it, and you can just buy these. I really like these a lot, and I'll put these in a lot of my collages, just kind of in the background, because once you glue these on, they kind of melt in there as well, and they add just a little touch of interesting texture, interesting dynamic. So like I would maybe put that one in a corner, maybe take another piece, put down here in this corner. Again, I like my corners, I like my symmetry. So we could do something like that. I went back, you remember our bold graphics? I went back and I cut 2 circles out just so that I didn't necessarily want the word to be known. I just wanted more of that look. So I could probably put this like right here. Again, we're staying on our lines. Okay, so now I've got something that looks like this. And all of this still lines up with everything that we have. And yet it's fresh and new, and nothing is conflicting with anything that we've got. Okay, the other thing that I want to do, because we're neutral, and because we have a little bit of black here, I would want to add just a touch of black. And one of the things that I like, and I think if you watched my reels for any length of time, you know I love black circles and, just black anything. So this is something that Dollar Tree is selling now. They have these chalkboard stickers, and these are stickers that are already pre-punched. And one of the things I like about these, let me open this up, is they're perfectly punched already, and they allow you to place these circles around without committing. So for example, you could take, and they have the 3 sizes too, that's the other thing I like. So like you could take a sticker off and you could place it somewhere, and you know, you just kind of place it right there. And if you don't like it, you could take it off immediately, stick it somewhere else. And this allows you to decide if that's where you want to put something. So I really like using that. And then if you end up that that's where you really want to put it and you like it, you can actually attach glue to your paper and just stick it right on there. So I do like that because it allows you to move stickers around. I also like that drywall tape that I've shown you before. Not this group specifically, but I've shown it in a lot of my other videos. And so what I did is I took some drywall tape, I painted it black, and then I punched out some circles. And so this is also good for something like this because it's neutral, but it has holes, and you can also add it to different places and get some color and consistency. I cut off the sides of this right here. So I cut off the sides, and then this can also be used if you just need some direction in the eye. So if you just need the you're finding that you don't have enough lines going this way, or you need lines going that way, you can glue these on in certain places so that the person looking at your collage knows which way to go. And sometimes that's really a big thing for collages. Is I'll look at people's collages sometimes and I'm like, where am I supposed to look? Where are the lines? And so sometimes if you just stick the lines on there, then the person knows immediately where to go. Okay. Well, for now though, I like this. So I'm just gonna stick this on. And at this point, I could put these on with paint. I could put them on with glue. I could put it on with matte medium. I'm gonna go ahead and use glue for this at this point, just because I'm gonna be adding things to it, and I'm just gonna use glue. So what I do when I use glue is I'm pretty generous with it, and I stick it all over, even if it's not, even if it's more over the center of the piece, because I've got circles in here, and so I don't know where the circles are gonna overlap and where they're not, and I just wanna make sure it's down. So I just kind of glue the whole thing on there. Okay, so I want this right about here. But when I'm gluing these down, again, pay attention to your lines. Make sure it's straight, mostly straight. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but keep in mind that you're gonna see this underneath the piece. And so if these are crooked, your viewer is gonna be confused. So try to get these as straight as you can. Glue this over here. Okay, and then let me put this one over here. I think one of my hairs has fallen off and gotten in here again. This is the story of my life. These hairs just kind of keep falling on there. Okay, so I'm gonna put that here. Okay, now I also want to show you, before we go any further, I've just made a diagonal also. So I want you to notice now that not only am I working up and down, but now I've also added a diagonal. And I'm gonna talk more about that in just a minute. But I'm gonna put this one on now. But now, in our second stage of this, we're now going to be paying attention to both our lines this way, but now we're going to be paying attention more to our diagonal, okay? Because we don't want to put things too heavy on one diagonal and not the other diagonal. Okay, so let me make sure this goes down. Okay. And then finally, we're going to put this up here. Okay. Now, I'm not going to put down anything black yet. I tend to wait and put that on once I have glued down my figures. Okay. All right. All right. So now this is when I'm going to add a little bit of paint. Okay, so I've got all of my, you know, pieces that I've added on top of my other. And now you can see that I have multiple layers. And again, layers are really important because that adds dimension and interest to your pieces. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, you can clearly see where I have my 5 pieces. I have an odd number, which is good. Art likes odd numbers, and they are all kind of zigzag. So you see this, how we've got this zigzag going. And this is also important because when my eye is going to look at these, it's going to naturally kind of go on this zigzag. Okay, and I'm going to help that along by putting just little pieces of paint. Let's see if I even have paint in there. Right along here, so that you can, now you're going to focus on these lines, okay, or on these little spots of light paint. Okay, so all I'm going to do here is just kind of smush these down like this. Okay, and I know it doesn't look like much, but it really does make a difference in the overall collage. The other thing this is doing is it is helping to marry these pieces to the background, because now they're going to especially look like the background, or look like they belong in the background. It also gives me an opportunity like this to make sure the pieces are glued down. So if I see something that's flipping up, I can just glue it down. Okay. All right. So I don't know if you can see, but we now have areas where we can follow the paint around, and we still have areas that are not painted. Okay. And it looks more like it's part of the background now. Okay. Also at this point, I'm going to take out my, I have a box of circles that I, when I'm bored watching TV or whatever, I'll just kind of sit and punch things out and punch out circles. And I keep them in like a little box. I have several of these boxes, by the way. And I will just go through here and I will look for circles that would match. So here are some circles from old ledger paper. This would certainly match. But what I want to do is try to find some that are a little bit more colorful, or maybe have a little bit of line on them. So like this one, it's neutral and blue, and it has some black lines on it. So that's actually a perfect one. So I'm going to put that one out here because that's got a little bit of color, a little bit of lines. Okay, those don't have any color. Oh, here's another blue one. That's good. Here's some black. I'm going to save that for later because I might want a black one. Let's see what else. These ones with writing, if I were in need of that, those would be really good. But right now, at this stage, I don't need any of those. Okay, these are all, if you're wondering, these all came from my National Geographic map. Those are those circles that came with that one. And it's really good to just have a stash of those because you never know when you're going to need those. Okay. Ooh, this one's good. This came from a jelly print piece that I made. And I'm going to go off topic here. All those jelly prints that you made in all those different classes, this is a really good way to use those. Just take a bunch of them and punch circles out of them. Put them in a box, and then when you're making your collages, you can pull them out and find the pieces that will fit into your existing collages. And I do that all the time. I always have jelly print pieces in my collages, so that's a really good way to use those. Okay, let me see what else I've got in here. Let's see. I'm trying to find ones that have color. Like I said, I am running really low on jelly plate. I need to replenish my stock. Okay, here's one that's kind of interesting. Kind of half blue, half green. There was a time when my stuff was really, I was overflowing with pieces and I just used it all. So I need to actually, I'm one of those people that actually needs to replenish my jelly plate stock. Okay, this is mostly dry. So now I'm gonna go back to my design pieces here. And we're gonna go back to putting them on the page. So I'm gonna remember where I had these. So this was here, this was there. And yes, this paint, it's still a little wet, but that's okay. This was like that. And this was like that. And I remember that, actually I think it was more over here. Okay, and I remember I like this up here. Okay, And I think I had some more pieces maybe that I liked, but let me see if they're underneath here. Nope, but this is okay because you don't want to overdo your piece. Okay, so now as I am looking at her, I still like this blue. I really like that blue. I'm going to take this off for just a minute, and I'm going to move this over here. I like that there. I like this line. Okay. All right. I actually like this a little bit more like this because now that we have put this piece up here, this area here, we're going to go back to our 4 quadrants. Remember our 4 quadrants that we had? This quadrant here is now pretty filled because I filled it up with these numbers. You also want to think about negative space, and you want to think about positive. So you do want a certain amount of negative space so that you know, the viewer can feel not so overwhelmed all the time. And it doesn't all have to be negative space, but you want to have some of it. The other thing you want to consider is diagonals in your piece. And so you want to be able to have you know, the diagonal is very prevalent and not have one diagonal more heavier than the other. And in this case, if you take a look, we are pretty even here. She fits pretty much really evenly, you know, on both sides of the diagonal. And one of the other things you want to consider is the weight of the piece. And the weight should always be heavier on the bottom than it is on the top. Because if it's too top heavy, it's just going to feel lopsided. So you want to make sure most of the weight is down here. So for example, if I were to put this up here, this would feel really imbalanced. Whereas if I'm going to put it somewhere, I could put it down here, and you notice how it feels more composed down there. Additionally, let's say that I were going to put, I'm not going to do this, but let's say that I had another piece that I'm going to add to it, and I'm going to put it right here. It doesn't look good right there, but compositionally it could fit right there. Whereas if I were going to take this piece and put it here, it doesn't look good because again, we put it up here in this quadrant. And I'm going to show you again, like if I were to put a piece right there, it's not bad because we still got it on the diagonal, but it's too top heavy. I could put it here and it looks okay. But again, the reason it doesn't look good is because we've left our diagonal now and it's got too many things on both sides. It's not too even. And especially if I were to put it here or here, you can see that it's just the weight of the piece throws it off. So you have to really not glue your pieces down until you're sure where your weight is going to be. And I'll give you another example here. I cut out, this is another magazine thing that I cut out, and I want to show you what I mean by that. So some people will put lots of things on their piece, and I have done that too. And sometimes you can, but let's say I were to put that there, and let's say then I were to load it up here, and now I have a lot up here in this thing, and here's my piece. Can you see how it's so top heavy that your bottom, you've just lost everything in your bottom. And in addition to that, it just feels very off. And that's because you've, and even though you have your line still, everything's going this way, it's just so unbalanced. So you want to take that off, and even if you took this off, you can still see how it's just a much lighter piece. Okay, so I just want to show you that and show you that sometimes the lighter you can go, just the more balanced your piece can be. Okay, I'm going to scoot her over a little bit, and I'm going to push this back. I really like both of these. I still like this, but you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that it's still too heavy. So I'm going to cut this in half, and I'm going to see what we can do with just this half. And I am going to put this here, like that, right under her. And I'm also going to cut off this dark part right here because I think that dark part is adding a little bit too much to her. So I'm going to just kind of tuck this under. She's got a little bit of paint on her, but that's okay. So I'm going to tuck that under. Okay, so now what I've done by this now is if you think about a scale, I have just centered her so she's pretty much on balance. And this is her center, like a fulcrum, you know, and she's on balance. So that's one thing I have done that's going to help her quite a bit. Okay. All right. Well, this is the end of part 4. We're still not done. We're almost done. Part 5 is going to be the end of this. And at the very end, I am going to talk more about diagonals and more about the weight of the piece. And we're going to end it with the final talk about circles and how circles are going to be very important. All right, so this is the end of this one, and I'll see you in the next one, part 5.